We're here right now in the Cape Coast Castle in Ghana, and we are going to have a tour of the castle, the slave castle.
I am God's redeemed. I'm also an African woman pushed to make history. History is what I make by telling people about the transatlantic slave trade. This is the third and the last castle built by the Portuguese, the English, around 1664. Elmina was built by the Portuguese around 1482. And Christian was built by the Danes around 1661. These Europeans coming to Africa, they said they were here to trade with the Africans in gold, ivory, spices. But as time went on, the reason for coming to Africa shifted to needy people. When this same Europeans said they discovered the Americas. Discovering the Americas, they established sugarcane, tobacco, coffee plantations, and they needed people to work for them. They exploited the Red Indians, who were now so strong for bird Africa. They died of European disease like chickenpox, to save the Red Indians, the natives of America, total extinction of Roman Catholic priests suggested that we go for Africa. They can replace them. Why? Because the Africans, they're strong. After all, they're pagans. And what do we do to people who are not worshiping the true God? We enslave them. So these Europeans coming to Africa found Africans in the midst of war. Already we are divided. That became so easy for the Europeans to conquer us because a home already divided cannot go after the enemy. So when the Europeans came, they raided and kidnapped Africans all by themselves. Till they realized they were just getting few people. To get many people, then they had a company with their own local leaders who at that time were in the midst of tribal wars. They realized our people would need guns, gunpowder, sugar fabric. So we have guns, we have gunpowder. All that we need from you are your prisoners of war, criminals, and debtors. Yeah, so wherever the captives were captured, we marched on foot right to Sanitation for them to take their last bath before they were brought into this castle. And here we have a place called Palava Hall where the captives were branded according to the names of the companies that bought them. After branded, then we have the males pushed into here. The females, it's the female slave dungeons to wait for the ships to come get them. To deter other captives from rebelling. So if we give 2 or 3 days, then the soldiers will come and find out if the people breathe in or not. Those who are breathless will now be taken away. They had to wait for everybody to die before they get the dead bodies in. The female slave dungeons, we have 2, 1, 2, and each could also house 150 to 200. Again, we have the same thermals, being the source of light in here. Those who are raped, some were found pregnant here. Okay, if you're found pregnant and here, they took you outside the castle where they have built stone houses there. That you'll be taken care of by some English doctors and nurses. After giving birth, they gave you grace period of 3 months to breastfeed your kid. When that was done, the kid was taken away from the mother, and the mother brought back you to wait for the next shipment. If you are not fortunate to be found pregnant here, or you're found pregnant on a ship, someone thrown overboard. The reason being that you're weak. Being pregnant, you will need more time. Your wife got pregnant, okay? You realize that she needed more time than anybody. Yeah. So they realized we don't have that luxury of time to be taking care of pregnant women. So we throw them overboard. After all, we have banks to give us insurance. We have a bank like Barclays Bank, which was a slave company because the bank was giving insurance to the slave companies for throwing in sick captives into the sea just to save the other slaves from catching the same sickness. Again, slaves to the New World could be sold at any point in time and nobody would have pregnant slave. So the best they could ever do was to get rid of it. You had a urinate, go to the toilet, vomit, do everything here. To the point that their human feces got to listen. The whitewashes on the walls. The basis of the whitewashes. That was the level of the solidified humans. That's why there's here. And leaving a slave could carry his own waste right up to this level. Yes. So like you're standing in the river. How do we get the markings? In 1974, this place went through excavation. And it was after digging they discovered the floor was made with bricks. Before the student who excavated the floor could do that, they left the white markings for us so we know the level of the accumulation of the solidified human race. So what we have here contains the DNA of the captives. This is a mixture of their blood, tears, sweat, urine, feces, and anything else the captives left behind. I know this because the student took sample for testing, and the results proved what I just said. First floor. What do we not see? What do we not see on this floor?
Lower.
Bricks.
The bricks.
Yeah. It hidden beneath, meaning we on top of solidified human waste. You know, we top on feces, sweat, blood, food particles, dust of feet, huddled up. The bricks are hidden beneath it. Okay, so this is the last room. When the ships came, the captives or the enslaved had to go through a tunnel, which was here. This thing was not here at the time. All that was here was the entrance of a tunnel where the captives in chains and in shackles walked through to the door of no return. They blocked the entrance around 1834 to mark the end of the slave trade. That's why we're not seeing the entrance of the tunnel. And this is a shrine. It was built after the end of the slave trade. This is where the Africans on this land believed in before the introduction of Jesus Christ. There are people who still come here to worship the rock. They let you carry some of the cannonballs, the big ones, the biggest ones. They weigh 30 to 50 kg. You carry more than one of them, and you are commanded to walk with the balls. As you walk with them, if any of the balls fail, that meant agreement to be raped. Meaning nobody escaped it. Because you cannot carry those balls and walk successfully with them, they're heavy. Eventually some will fall. Yes. And no slave was allowed to take a bath in the castle. The only time a female slave could take a bath was when any of the white officials wanted to rape them. You know, women go through a menstrual cycle. It's not just her blood, there are other women with her. So her blood plus the other women's blood, her sweat by the other woman's sweat. Whoever the potential rapist was could not stand the stench, the smell. Therefore, the need to wash the woman down, apply pomade, perfume on their skin, give her a nice clothes to wear, heavy for to eat before raping her. When that was done, she was not done with. She was brought back to the female slave dungeons to wait for the ships to come get her. I said earlier that no black slave was buried here. The only black person buried here is this guy, Philip Cuckoo, who was not a slave, but his father was a supplier of captives. I said earlier that Africans were in the midst of war, so his father would bring in prisoners of war in exchange for guns, gunpowder, sugar fabrics. Because of his father's connection with the English, and the English looking for African boys to be trained as priests, he was selected among them. Yeah, Philip, at the age of 11 years old, was taken from here to England, that he was trained to become an Anglican priest. 24 years old, he came back to Africa and served the English church. So he was buried here because of his service. This was just an observatory for the white soldiers to stand and watch the slaves move underground to the door of no return. There are no steps, so watch out.
So they just look through all the pass by.
They pass through to the last exit.